What's up? Welcome back. So now that we've revealed the project, we got Duncan in the background over there. He's doing some work because I can't be in the workshop alone, unfortunately. So he's been very kind and come down to work on some customer cars while I do some of my own stuff. We're going to gasket the engine today. This right here. I need to go through and make this thing reliable. Well, make it a little bit more reliable for the car, so I don't have to work on it when it gets in there. So today we're going to go through and we're going to do all the main gaskets on this and a few other little bits and pieces. So rock cover gasket, this oil tree housing gasket that sits in here somewhere. We're going to do water pump, this thermostat housing, and then we have a rear main because we're doing manual swap, so you always do that when you take your flywheel and clutch assembly off. And then the sump gasket, which is pretty common on the old Beamer, also because I need to weld the oil pump nut. So if you guys know BMW engines, you know that the oil pump nut likes to back itself off. So flip the engine over, get out the old glue stick, glue it together, put the sump back on, and good to go. So I might turn some music on so I can work, so you guys will get YouTube music, and I will set you up over here and I'll just time lapse pulling this down, and then I'll talk to you about some of the parts and stuff when I go to put them on. So hopefully that wasn't too long of a time lapse, because to be honest they get fucking boring to watch, let's be real. Now we have the stripped down majority. The last bit will be the sump, but I might gasket all this up first and then we'll pull this off when we flip the engine once we've done all of this stuff. So obviously rock cover gasket. Thankfully this engine looks quite clean. We'll get to see both sides of it too because we've taken the sump off. So yeah, obviously rock cover gasket because you don't want oil leaking everywhere. Makes your engine look yuck. Thermostat housing. These are, I believe, electronically controlled. So I don't know how old this one is. It looks pretty crusty, to be honest. And when you are abusing a car, you do not want it to overheat. So that needs to go. Water pump, obviously, this pushes the water around the car again. Looks fucking crusty and disgusting, so that needs to go. And then this whole unit, just for that tiny little gasket right here which leak, this one is hard as rocks, so I'm assuming that this was pissing oil out of here, and this is like the main oil gallery feed system for the engine, because it goes into the filter from the pump and then obviously through to the rest of the motor. So I'm going to clean up all our surfaces now, get them nice and clean. Same in here, clean all these parts and put them back on. I've just been cleaning down all the mating surfaces. You can go fast, Duncan. Just been cleaning down all the mating surfaces and stuff on the block and also on the accessories. So here, got my new gasket in. Clean this down with a bit of brake clean and a rag. Also where the water pump goes and the thermostat housing sits. You want to try to get as much gunk and stuff off as possible so you get the best seal, so nothing leaks. So got a little bit more to do on the thermostat housing, but I'm going to start putting some of the stuff back on, do my rocker cover, and then we'll flip the motor over. Oil tree and filter housing on. Next we're going to put in our water pump. So it's got this rubber seal here which seals on the inside there if it'll focus. So I've just tried to clean it up a wee bit. I'm going to put a little bit of rubber grease in here just so she slides in nicely, and then old mate in like that. New pump. Squeeze out. Bit of grease. She goes. Oh fuck, I'm a bit average at this filming while working situation. So grab him, slide him in here. Push the seal. It's quite a tight fit. I may need to persuade it a little bit. There she goes. So we have the pump on, and then we're going to do the thermostat. Pump's right here. Thermostat slides in here somewhere like that. So now we just get our nuts, bolt, sorry, and tighten them up. So we've done our oil tree, we've done our water pump, done our thermostat. I've cleaned up the top of the head here for the gasket. I've cleaned up my rocker cover. Whoever had this car before me, I hate you. They were too cheap to go and replace the gasket, so now it's all plastic. Instead they thought that they would just use silicone and put it back on. That was a mission to get out. Anyway, we've got our new gasket here, so I'm going to put them in here. When we put this on, we only want to use a little bit of RTV in these half moons just in the corners to get it to seal. So there's 2 at the front and 2 at the back, and then bolt them down in a crisscrossy starry type pattern so it gets a nice even squish and hopefully doesn't leak. So I put my new gasket in, nice rubber fresh gasket. I put my silicone in my corners here the whole way around the engine, just there and there. So now I'm going to put my washers in and torque down my cover. So then this whole top part of the motor now is all sealed. We just got to flip it upside down and tackle the oil pump nut and the sump. for a quick smoko. Flip my engine over, and we're going to whiz off the sump here. Take a look at what we can see underneath the sump. I think our oil pump sits right about here. I'm going to wheel it over in there and get out the old hot glue gun, and hopefully it holds. So we've got her off. Here's our culprit. As you can see from factory, these have a bit of slack in the old chain. So when these motors start to rev, the harmonic spins the chain like this, and it actually backs off the oil pump nut. So the proper fix is there's a few kits that change this oil pump nut sort of bolt area. They change that so it's longer and stronger, and then you put a piece of wire through the nut and all that to hold it all together. And there's also a kit that makes a bracket off here and puts a tensioner so that way the chain can't have the slack. We're just going to do the simple fix because I'm not trying to spend bulk money on this motor, and just put a wee tack here so it can't back itself off. I've seen a lot of people do this online. They seem to have pretty good results out of it. There is the odd person that this doesn't work and it fails, but they seem to have like drift cars that are on the limiter 24/7. This is still going to be a street car. It's going to see a couple track days here and there, but it's not going to be living at the track. So I think we should be alright with just doing the old hot glue gun method here. Obviously this is our sump gasket here, if I can pull it up. So it is actually supposed to be a little bit of raised rubber. Over time they just get old and squished and they no longer seal and they become a huge leak on BMWs. So I needed to do this anyway, and at the same time we might as well rectify this. So after much consideration of my welding capabilities and a bit of internet searching, I decided that the best way to actually do this would be to drill the oil pump nut. The camera's probably not going to pick it up, so you just have to believe me. Put some Loctite on, put this back on here, and then use some locking wire around here, around the nut, just to try and prevent it from backing off. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, sick. Dab of Loctite. And then this is reverse thread, so lefty loosey should spin him on. Snug him up with the old, and then go get some locking wire. So after a bit of pissing around, this is my final product. I drilled a little hole through the oil pump nut, put Loctite on, tightened it up nice and tight, and then yeah, lock wired the nut like that, so hopefully under the vibrations it doesn't come off and we get a few skids in. Now I've already cleaned this surface, clean my sump inside and out, put my new gasket on. I'm going to smear a little bit of RTV around here because I don't want this thing to fucking leak. Put this on, flip the engine back over, and Bob's your uncle. So I've cleaned up my sump, cleaned up the surface. So now RTV, I'm going to smear it on here and on the sump, and then I'm going to chuck my gasket on, bolt everything down, and then this engine for the most part is done, other than bolting on the exhaust on the intake side. But in terms of gasketing and servicing this engine, we're ready to go. So smear some RTV on, put the sump on, and that'll be it. Got my sump back on, my fresh gaskets, everything's all tight. I double checked with my hand ratchet instead of my electric one to make sure that everything is nice and tight evenly. I'm going to leave the engine like this for a bit just to let it seal a bit better while I tidy up my mess, and then I'll flip it back over and put the other accessories on, but you guys don't need to see that, so that'll be all for this video. I hope you guys learned something about BMW motors, or if you have a BMW motor and you want to do this, even if it's in the car, you kind of know the procedure of what to do. So yeah, thanks for watching, and Duncan and I will catch you in the next video. Hey Duncan. Hey.